I cannot imagine a matchup a little more stylistically different than this. You have Gumiho, the master of aggression, of janky builds, of funky Reaper things. And then you have the absolute mastermind of Maru Terran, of late game, of turtling, of playing solidly and defensively. And it's going to be fun to see who cuts right on through, because we're right here. It's game one, it's Ryung, it's Gumiho, and for now, everything's going the same, right? The interesting thing, though, is this is a Reaper expand, or this is gas first, I guess, technically, coming from both players. Generally, when you watch a game of Starcraft, if you watch a TVT, it's going to be barracks, double gas, factory. That's how that goes. Keeps you safe against a lot. It gives you enough greed. It kind of allows you to play the middle ground. But seeing Ryung here, this was gas first. This was really quick double gas coming out of Ryung and Gumiho both. And I'm wondering what this says about their practice structure, their kind of internal meta, because this is not, again, this is not a build that we see all that often. Because, well, barracks double gas factory, it gives you the defense against gas first. It also, it gives you aggressive options against, you know, Reaper expand type of play. And it again, it's middle of the road. And one of the things that it's designed to kind of deal with is this gas first idea. So seeing both players go for it, I think is really interesting. So for now, actually, who got the first shot here on the Reaper? I'm not sure, but it seems like Ryung is just going to have to back up. He's going to hold the high ground, wait for the healing to pop right in. There we go. And it's one Reaper versus one. So you're not really going to be able to find all that much. That's fine. So where did we go? This build is just so mirrored. Oh, hey, hold that thought, though, because Ryung gets right on top. He gets a positive trade, keeps his Hellion alive, and KD charges zone out. So another shot. No, not from the Hellion, but he gets on top of the Reaper, and now he's going to knock this thing down as well. So two Reapers just sitting here. They're going to delay the command center for quite a while. Ryung gets right on top of things, finds his way on the high ground. KD charges, forces the SCVs away. But that's going to be mostly the extent of the damage. So at the end of things, it's a Reaper and a Hellion for two Reapers and an SCV. Yeah, you take that. Ryung is going to be extremely happy about this setup, especially as, yeah, his natural is not that much faster. In fact, I think despite this, it's going to finish right around the same time, but it's a little bit more map control for Ryung. Just a little bit better of an ability to figure out what's happening, to exist on the map. But, ooh, okay. Double Cyclone coming out of Ryung. We're going to see double Cyclone drops. Or not. We're actually going to see the exact... Jeez, this is mirrored. 4 Marines and a Cyclone showing up on both... showing up out of both medevacs here. The big difference, though, again, Ryung is going to have a Cyclone to trade with. And Gumiho's going to have a tank, which in this situation, without really a ton to defend on the ground, I kind of like Ryung's setup just a little bit more. So Gumiho, though, gets the full unload, finds his way into the middle line. A couple workers, they're just destined to die, but lock on the medevac's going to force it to boost away, but he doesn't maintain vision. So even still, Marines will fall down. On the other side, there's nothing to knock down the medevac. So now this tank under pretty heavy threat here, but he starts to target the Cyclone down, gets the lock on an SCV, though. Oh, the Cyclone goes down. And that had so much more potential for Ryung, but unfortunately, he messes the micro up a little bit. Doesn't get the lock on that he needs. The tank stays alive, and Ryung just forced to back up. And now in this situation, I'd much rather have a Cyclone. I'd much rather have a Cyclone and a medevac. At this third base on location, yeah, good luck. It's not going to happen. Not at all. Well, positive lock on there. Good trade. And that's going to be that. Okay. But now the third base on location does get started. But we're seeing differences now. Gumiho's third base is pretty significantly later than what Ryung has gone for. But he does have a much bigger army. And more importantly, it's double Raven. Although in fairness, Ryung also has that as well. I guess actually the bigger deal is that because there was no second Cyclone, there's an additional tank that Gumiho has access to right now. So this push, if he decides to go for it, and that's not a guarantee, but if he decides to go for it, he will have a little bit more oomph, a little bit more power in that army. Tiny things, but I mean, 3 tanks versus 2, it can make all the difference. But this Reaper from early game, oh, it delays the third base, and man, that's just insult to injury here. A Marine will go down, so Ryung is well aware what's happening right now, and he's got Vikings. So these Ravens, they got to make their move right now or not at all. And there we go. The tanks are going to get shut down here. Well, and actually the tanks of Gumiho fighting really strong. So one tank goes down. Second one is going to get targeted down eventually here. Cyclone joins the fray, locks on, but all the Marines are going to fall down. And at the end of the day, Gumiho removes the tank count, at least on the right side, but he loses all of his Marines. He loses his mobile force. So it's a slow push now. Even still, this will dislodge the third base quite a bit here as the tanks from Gumiho, they're setting up a line. They're very happy to just not allow Ryung out of his base at all. Just no opportunity, no shot. But here's the thing. Ryung is building Liberators. He understands that at least for the moment he has air dominance. He's got 4 Vikings to 4, but his Vikings are all on his side of the map, and Gumiho does of course have to rally forward. So it seems like Ryung is somewhat confident that he's going to be able to get a positive siege up there with the Liberators, knock a tank or 2 down, force the unsiege, and find his way out, and find an opportunity to start mining out of that third base again. But if you look at the tank count, 5-2. And that is significant. But here's what Gumiho... So he understands that his Viking count is maybe not as good as Ryung is, so he's just landing them. It's extra ground power, but against the Liberator, you really don't want that. You do need that anti-air. So there we go. Liberator's going to siege on up here, and Gumiho's actually a little bit slow on the... He's going to get a Marine, fine, but he's very slow on the uptake here. I guess in part because he was, well, harassing with Ravens on the other side, but it's okay. Cyclone tries to get a lock on. It's on the Raven, but yeah, you just run on out of that one. And now the tanks, they're forced to unsiege, re-siege. Vikings in the air right now. It's going to be a dead tank. There we go. So the slow push. The slow breakout moving in, and now Vikings take Viking fights. Target fire there on the medevac. I think the Raven stays alive for the time being. So this is a very good air fight coming out of Ryung right now. But even still, he's got to make sure that it is going to work out after all. And despite everything, I really thought that was a good air fight. I really did it. You shut down 3 Vikings. You have anti-armor missile on more. And despite that, Gumiho wins the air trade. Despite that, he still wins out once again. So Gumiho's up 11 workers at this point. He still got this tank lead. It's 5-3 this time, and because some tanks have gone down, but he's still got the tank lead, and this orbital is not going to be allowed to do all that much. The Marines stem forward, but I mean, there's something called a cliff. Ryung, you're not allowed to run down cliffs. You're not Reapers. Sorry, the Marines. It's not allowed. And there we go. The command center lifts once again. Ryung considering a big doom drop here. That is, what, 16, 17 Marines and a couple medevacs. And now the Raven. A Raven goes down. Another one gets very low. So Ryung, he needs a pressure release. He needs a pressure relief valve. He needs some opportunity for Gumiho to allow him onto the map. He needs a third desperately. I mean, look at the income. Look at the income over the last, what is that, 2 minutes? It's so heavily in the favor of Gumiho because his opponent just not been able to take a third. But you put 17 Marines and 3 medevacs with 1-1 because that's the big timing here. Although, as I say that, not able to take advantage of it. Gumiho's are done as well. But you just put this many Marines in the main base right as the missile turrets are done. So this medevac will go down with the Marines inside of it. And now with the rally here, it's still powerful, sure, but it's not as powerful as it might have once been. And the SCVs are going to get pulled. 5 of them will go down here. 8 go down, and there we go. That's equalizing damage. At this point, the economy is going to balance out. 14 workers go down. Gumiho's still up 5, but it's close enough. But you need to break this tank line. Gumiho can build 3 SCVs at a time, and so too can Ryung, but Gumiho can afford to do so because he has mules, because he has these 3 bases. So now, seems like we just got the big break coming in. SCVs are going to get pulled here. Marines getting on top. Tanks unsieged. Marines coming in from the right side as well, and they're going to break right on through this. Only 5 SCVs go down, and we're going to see some Vikings maybe hit the deck here as well. A Raven falls. Great fight coming out of Ryung. And now that gives him his 3rd base. He's got to repopulate this so quickly, but Gumiho's army is still there, and that's again a pretty significant Viking lead. 7-0 air dominance. You can spend less scans. That means the economy is not going to be hurt quite as quickly. Medevacs go down here as well because Vikings, they just get to sit above dead airspace and make life tremendously hard for Ryung. So Ryung, he's got his 2-2 on the way. Gumiho's forgotten his upgrade, but he's got a 4th base, an additional factory. Different methods of getting into the late game, or at least the later mid game, is kind of what we're looking at right now. And from this situation, one has to assume that as we get later and later into the game, that this is probably Ryung favored. And I say this only because Ryung is... his late game is incredible. It's not Mario good, but it's pretty close in TVT. So he's going to stim on top, get a tank, micro backwards. But the problem right now is he's losing just so many medevacs. How many medevacs have died this game? 5 medevacs. Oh, man. So it's just really hard for Ryung to maintain this posture, even as he does get a tank, even as he does, again, develop his army a little bit better. But he's actually cut SCVs. He's just building this massive army on the idea. I think of a 2-2 timing, but now stimming on top, trying to get on top of the Liberators. Oh, this tank is dead very easily, and the second tank doesn't have any upgrades. So it's actually working out fairly well for Ryung as he stims on, but now 8 Marines in the main base here, trying to target down the armory, maybe get an upgrade, but that's not really going to work out super well. And actually superior concave coming out of Ryung. So this drop gets dealt with, the medevac falls, and we were talking about how as this game goes late, it really does feel like we favor Ryung. And I continue to think that is true, as +2 is now done. This tank will fall. And yeah, the Gumiho's up supply, but it really is only up in workers. He's not up in army supply. That's pretty equal. You look at resources lost, it's just about the same. And now looking at this, I gotta say, I'm pretty impressed that Ryung, that his supply is as equal as it is, because again, he's been trading equally. He's had less economy, but I guess, is his army cheaper? Not really. Huh. Now this is a nice flank coming in from Ryung right now. He's gonna trap this thing. He's gonna swallow it whole. So Gumiho, he's gonna have to run away. He's got a high. It's not really going to work, and he's not really doing a good job of repositioning Ryung. That's kind of the big deal. And actually, Ryung seems like he's got a bit of a death push here. No 3-3 on the way, no 3rd base. He just wants to end the game right now on this 2-2 timing. So he's up an upgrade. And how's the tank count? It's 7-5. He's got the lead. He's got more healing as well. And there we go. Unsieges more tanks. He's across the map. And if he can jump on top of these tanks from Gumiho, he can find that opportunity. This army absolutely slaps. Let's see what he's going to be able to do. But for now, rocks are going down, opening reinforcement paths, allowing him to run through the middle. Now he's going to stim on top. He's going to see the 4th base, or at least he's going to get the sensor tower, and that's kind of a tell in and of itself. And now it's base trade territory, because this is an army that is kind of stuck in the middle of the map here. Ryung, it's technically first mover's advantage. He's going to get on top of all the tanks, stimming right on in. The arc is horrible, though, and he's losing so many of these Marines, even as he knocks things down. Meanwhile, his defensive tanks are not doing nearly enough. 22 workers have it the death because the Marines, they stemmed in earlier. They got things down, but now Ryung into the main base. He's up a little bit in army supply. There are no tanks in the main. 3-3 on the way for Gumiho. That's something that can be canceled, by the way. But here's the problem. Gumiho's in the main base faster. He's shutting down production just a little bit faster. Your tanks go down. And I think even the bigger thing, as these tanks in the low ground are, finding some value, I think the bigger thing here is that the structures have died faster out of Gumiho. That, and he actually has mining. It's 34 workers to 4. So Gumiho with that 4th base, that is going to be really important for him here. He's already rebuilding 4 factories. I don't know that factories are the play. I would feel like he just built a bunch of barracks, but okay. By the way, +3 attack will complete. He could have canceled that. Oh no, he unsieges the eye. That's unfortunate. So +3 attack completes. As the factories are now made, they're going to get floated elsewhere. This planetary is dead, and I actually don't know how I feel about the repair of it. To be totally honest, that's money that Gumiho doesn't really have a lot of. He's got more than Ryung does, and actually Ryung's out of workers. But I feel like at this point, save your money for building extra bases or building more structures, things like that. So now Ryung, he's down about 10 army supply. He's down. Well, okay, he's down an upgrade. Plus 2 armor was denied, but more importantly, his tanks do not hit nearly as hard as Gumiho's tanks do. That is the big problem. We're looking at, what's the count? 5 tanks to 0. Oh, well, you know what? There's that. There are no tanks on the map for Gumiho right now. And Ryung, though, suffering from no SCVs. So even as he has mules and he has money, he can't get on supply blocks. He has to lose a fight to be able to bring his way back into this game as he tries to bait on forward, get some Marines. But Gumiho, he's sitting on 3 barracks right now. He is able to produce. He's building 3 Marines at a time, and he's found the orbital. So Gumiho's going to have to back up. In fact, he's just dropping the orbitals for scans. That seems to be the play. He just wants to make sure that he has the ability to scout out where his opponent is. But make no mistake about it. I mean, you look at the supply, and it's pretty rough. But Ryung absolutely has win conditions. He gets some good tank shots, and it's game over. This is such a hard army for Gumiho to fight into, even as he has all of these Marines. Until that tank count starts to find its way back. And again, this is a heavily supply block Gumiho. He is going to struggle to take the fight. So it's the slow push coming out of Ryung right now. Running across the map, sieging, unsieging, and resieging, and just he needs to get on top of the planetary. And actually, Gumiho's already giving it up. I love this. It's just mine and run, get a little bit out, run away, build something more, run away. And he knows that Gumiho, that Ryung has to be super slow about this. So we got a base bottom right, we have a base upper left, and we have this orbital in the middle with SCVs kind of running away from it. So that is going to be nice, but these factories, they're just dead. I don't know that much is going to be able to be saved as the orbital is running away here. It seems like it's going to be able to find dead airspace. Well, this factory dead. Gumiho is maybe not. Yeah, there's no dead airspace there. Never mind. So that is going to be a dead orbital. At least it's going to be burning. As now Marines, they find some more SCVs, and this is going to be rather nice here. I mean, it's the repair on the orbital, but all the workers are going to go down 13, 12, 9. It seems like all the SCVs. Okay, almost all the SCVs will hit the deck, and actually this orbital might burn. Is there enough damage on it? Is that what we're finding here? Oh, it's so close. Oh, it's so close, but it's not going to go down. What a game we have. Oh, what a good game. So SCVs continue to be made as Gumiho has been able to fix some of his supply issues, but now Ryung seems to be aware of this. He's running pell-mell down to the bottom left. Is by the way, where's this factory? I guess this was like a factory saved from the main. Is that? Oh, the medevac is so low. But now tanks are going to siege up here. Marines, Gumiho thinking about getting on top, but no, not on top of it. That's a dead orbital. So 4 SCVs remain. Again, Gumiho is supply blocked here. He's up 26 army supply. As the 2 orbitals, they're going to hug. So it's 5 tanks to 1, 22 Marines to 59. But if Ryung can get on top of this, he can siege up the ramp and start to just... There are no medevacs. So like there really is no good way that Gumiho can deal with this. And that, well, he's actually setting up for surround. So this is the end of the game right now. One way or the other, this game does end. And Gumiho has a massive surround. Actually, a couple tanks are on siege. So look at what Ryung does. His tanks are on the high ground. Moving forward, he wants to be able to buffer for the surround on the low ground. He wants this army to get trapped in the choke. So the Marines, they're going to join the fight here as well. And actually, the tanks are going to unsiege. Gumiho, Ryung tries to get on top of things right now. He's just going to lose the Marines. The Marines on the backside, though. The choke, is it enough? And it absolutely is not. Ryung, he tries. He fights hard. But Gumiho just had too much. He had too much economy out of the base trade. And that's game 1. Going the way of the Terran. That score's wrong, and now we're into game number 2. But luckily, the fly-ins are right, and that's a bug I need to fix in my transition. That's fine, because it's game 2. It's Babylon. It's a bit smaller of a map, and certainly, after game 1, I'm excited to see what these players have in store for us, because, Basetrades, they make me happy indeed. And we were talking about overlays in the break a little bit. I am so excited for whatever Storm... I'm excited to have all of my assets break. Because, Stormgate starts and I have all these tools and all these setups, and it's like, wow, for a time, none of it's going to work. We're not going to have such a well-oiled overlay as we have right now in WCS Pro. We're not going to have any of that. Because as awesome it is that Ryan shooter, our RTS shooter, the man who invented GameHeart, he's the chief UX guy at Frost Giant, but you know, they're busy building the editor and doing all these awesome things. So certainly, you know, it's not going to be quite the same. We're not going to get to the nice esports overlay that, you know, realistically, this most recent version we've had, it's been 13 years of iterations to figure out how we want to present, and this is probably going to be our baseline, but I don't know where we go on the esports side. It's going to be interesting to find out. Like, are we going to find better ways to present information? Are we going to find better ways to make it look good? Do we still want the minimap in the left? We know that the console, the playing console, is a centered console, which, you know, the minimap kind of right there in the center as part of it, which is really nice for widescreen monitors and variable screen size. But do we want to ape on that a little bit? Do we want all the information kind of in the dead center and you know, leave the edges a little bit more wide open? I don't know. I'm just excited to figure it out. I'm excited to experiment and iterate and make every single production that much better. Much like I try to make in Starcraft 2, but oh man. Also, there's some very exciting news on the Stormgate front on the horizon. They're cooking. It's in the oven, and we're gonna find out more eventually. I can't talk about it just yet. If you're seeing this video after a certain date, then I will have been able to talk about it. But for right now, just know that they're cooking. That Widow Mine is hidden. Jeez. That's actually gross. I don't know what it... Actually, I'm not sure what it looks like from the perspective of the other player, but that feels like it might be one of the situations where you had the carpet and you actually couldn't see the Widow Mine. I don't think it's that bad, but that's gross. That's hard to see. But anyway. Again, mirrored openers coming out of Gumiho and Ryung, gas first from both players, and it's surprising to see that. It really is. There's been this meta in TVT, whether it's Korean TVT or foreign TVT, whatever it is, where again you have the barracks, double gas factory. And yeah, we saw a couple changes at Katowice. We saw players messing around with Reaper expands and gas first to some extent, because realistically, probably because of the Raven change and how that has so much less aggressive power in the early game. You can maybe get away with things a little bit more. Ravens are cheaper, so you need a little bit less gas to find yourself safe or get whatever you want. But regardless, it is interesting. It seems like Gumiho may be going mad. Ooh, maybe. Who's getting that fourth gas much faster than Ryung is, and normally in other matchups, 430, 4 gas is like, okay, this player's going back. But in this case, you know, TVT is a little bit more interesting because you do want all that gas so quickly. As what am I? Gonna get a shot. There we go, dead Hellion. Nothing more than that, but we take the dead Hellions where we can get them. And I'm just watching this production tab right now. I am really curious to see if we're gonna go to mech or not. And talk about Stormgate, because again, it's front of mind for me right now. I am so interested to see what the different styles are going to be, right? So if you think about it, we have mech and bio for Terran, kind of across the matchups. And it's, at this point, mech is very rare. It's a little more common against Zergs. And there we go. Factory's going down. It's mech, boys. Gals, non-binary pals. It's mech on the docket, and it's going to be fun to see if Ryung can break this. So for now, third base on location, and he owns the high ground here. This is not a position that Gumiho wants to fight on into. Raven shut down 2 of the forward tanks, but so too Ryung loses his. It's kind of a wash, actually. Kind of a wash. But the Vikings on the high ground, that does make a pretty significant difference here. And oh, the tanks are slow to unsiege, so one will fall, second one takes heavy damage. Yeah, I'm excited to see how we're going to see stylistic differences, I guess, in the Stormgate is the best way to play it. Like, again, Terran, you have mech and bio. They play very differently. It's, you think about it, it's almost like two races for the price of one. You have Charge Loud Immortal Archon, and I guess Deathball. It's a little bit harder to delineate it. Sky Toss, I guess. And in ground toss. And for Zerg, you have kind of Mutiling Bane, and then you have kind of a Roach Hydra setup. But at this state in the game's development, you really only have one viable style per faction, per race. So like, many would argue that mech is not intensely viable, not at the pro level. They would argue that Roach Hydra is dead. And that one, unless you're going for some sort of interesting lurker thing, that is very much true. Mech is, you know, it's not, a Roach Hydra is pretty bad. And rushing the Sky Toss for the same idea, it's just not great. So I'm interested to see how that's going to happen. His anti-armor missile blankets everything. Okay. This is a pretty nice pushing position right now. And even as the Vikings get shut down, it's a positive trade. The Ravens will fall. Vikings continue to go down here as well. And Ryung, this is so nice for him. Even as he doesn't get tanks on the right side, that's a pretty positive trade. He's lost half the resources and his opponent's playing. Generally, if you're mech versus bio, you're going to trade worse, but you're going to do more. You're going to out-expand, you're going to be more active on the map, and that's just not really happening as now the tank siege up on the right side. Pretty much as Gumiho finishes his base, it's going to be a hefty siege, and this orbital is going to be forced to lift off. We're just going to take some pot shots from the Vikings, but Gumiho, he's got no interest in defending. Why would you defend when you can attack? Why use many tank when few tank do trick? So he's moving in on the other side, but this air army in the sky in the middle of the map is going to get found out here. Defensive tanks actually doing a pretty good job. Maybe got one tank, certainly did damage on one. And now the SCVs are going to be forced to run away, and we're base trade once again. But the problem is there's no anti-air, so orbital just into the main base, easy as you please. And Ryung, he's got Ravens. These tanks, they siege up. Well, actually, they're not going to shut down, but the Vikings should just land right on top of them, I would assume. The answer is no, and the SCVs continue to go down. Gumiho somehow, he makes kind of the best situation out of what was really not a great one. And now, well, the SCV is getting on top of this tank. He's going to get all the tanks, but the Vikings, excuse me, they will do land. And this is a ton of dead SCVs. This is so much economic damage now that even if Ryung did a good job, Gumiho did a good job of knocking down all the SCVs of Ryung as they ran away. At this point, 56 workers to 39. Tank counts have been roughly reset. For Ryung. Gumiho, he's got 9 of them. But he's got Liberators on the way. And that should put a slow to the roll of Gumiho just a little bit. Now, of course, the Viking count is not incredible, so that's a bit of a problem. Here's the tank gets 1, 2. That does not get a third shot off, but okay, Liberator in the main base here. It's not anti-tank. It's just going to continue to shut down economy. 4 workers go down. And I feel like we do need to see something coming out of Ryung. He does need some way to defend his high ground. He does need some way to defend these bases because this tank count is scary. And even as he's shutting down tons of... Oh, the Vikings, they're all going to go down. Massive misstep coming out of Gumiho there. So now he no longer owns the sky. It's 2 Vikings to 2, and that means these Liberators can be so much more powerful. They can do so much more. As another Viking goes down, so Gumiho, his economy shattered once again. The Liberators, they found so much, and Marines, oh, they found their way onto the other side. And this is a dead orbital. Now, granted, Gumiho has 4, but I feel like we're going to see these Marines sweep around, and yeah, it's just going to be a tap out. Gumiho not interested in fighting this out, not when Ryung has such an advantage. And Ryung, he ties us up. We're going to game 3. And here we are, the final game in this series. And you know how you know it's cool? The mineral lines, they form an S shape. And we all know that the S, although it's not quite the cool S. You need to connect them a little bit more. Even still, it's going to work out. So it's Gumiho, it's Ryung. They're tied up. It's been base trades again. Again, it's this double gas opener. And I would love to know what in their practice is telling them to do this. Oh, that's not what we want. There we go. You know, here's what we can do. We can show, actually in a second, we can show the player perspective. Just ideally not in first person because Bayo hit the wrong button, and I am sorry. I do apologize. You would think I would know better. Yeah, you want to see what Ryung is doing? He's just scouting, looking around. of course, this version, this mod, whatever they're using, whatever version of GameHeart they're using, does not show the red and blue player webcam frames, or player perspective frames, which I think is the best thing, by the way. When we added that in, as casters, honestly, we don't do the best job of bringing it up and showing what's happening. And we need to do better of pointing out just how active these players are. But it's so cool to see them, like at the start of the game, they're setting all their hotkeys, or you watch Clem and you're seeing his perspective frame bounce back and forth between two spots. It's just so cool. But anyway, mirrored builds. Although, as I say that, it's not quite true. There's a reactor. I sworn. There we go. Never mind. I lied. Ah, man, I swear these players practice together, or maybe Ryung practiced with Maru, and Maru also practiced with Gumiho, and Maru kind of, because Maru and Ryung play so similarly in this matchup, it kind of rubbed off. But this is not the TVT. I've been talking about it, but this is not the TVT A I'm used to seeing. And B, to see both of them do it is just, it's so interesting. So for now, it's 3 Reapers to 3, Hellion to Hellion, Widowmine coming out of Ryung, and Gumiho seems like he wants to get a little bit more aggressive. He's adding in that second Hellion and those extra Reapers, so it's going to be 6 Reapers and like 3 or 4 and like 3 Hellions when he moves out on the map here. And that's a heavy commitment, especially building Hellions out of a tech lab factory. So yeah, okay, so it's gonna be, okay, there we go. So 6 Reapers, maybe even a couple more. We're going up to 8 Reapers. Okay, so 6 Reapers one-shots SCVs. They one-shot other Reapers. They one-shot Marines, things like that. And you get 3 Hellions because they do the same thing. And you get a medevac. Or 4 Hellions, I guess. Yeah, it's Terrans. I think it might be 4. I know the math for other races is 3. I'm actually not sure about this. But anyway, you get a full medevac worth of Hellions. You get like 8 Reapers. And that is just so much damage if Ryung is not prepared for it. And honestly, even if he is, this could be catastrophic. I'm excited to see what's going to work out, because on the flip side, this is all in. Or maybe not all in, but it has to get damage done. It is a committed pressure. So what are we looking at? 8 Reapers, 4 Hellions, a Widowmine, or a medevac versus 3 Reapers, a Cyclone, a couple Marines, a Raven, a Hellion, and a Widowmine. But the Widowmine's at the natural. It's not going to be helpful here. Not at all. So there we go. The Hellions, they're lifted up. Reapers into the main, and there is no scout from Ryung. He has no idea. Yes, there's a tank ready, but it's going to have to siege up, and now the SCVs, they're pulling away. Big tank shot to start, and only 3 workers that hit the deck, so, you know, this could be worse right now. And look what Ryung's doing here. He's trying to zone things out. Oh, okay, so he disables the medevac. Everything's going to be trapped in here, and I would assume everything's going to go down. At least Ryung thinks it will, but the Reapers, they're staying alive. All the bio goes down. And now this is a lot more damage. Maybe the Cyclone gets the lock on. The medevac falls. Lots of mining time lost. But this is only 3 Reapers that remain. So 2 shots workers instead of 1 shot. There's something there. But even still, 3 workers, they're going to go down. SCVs get pulled. And I feel like this is actually pretty good for Ryung. Oh, okay, big tank shot. That should be the end of it. A couple more workers. Maybe Cyclone gets lock on. And yeah, there we go. So at the end of this, how were the trades? 8 Reapers, 4 Hellions, a medevac versus 7 SCVs, 3 Reapers, 6 Marines, and a Hellion. A little bit more minerals, sure. Dying. There we go. Like a couple more minerals, of course, dying for Ryung, but the gas count. That's 500 gas that Gumiho has lost. And in all honesty, Ryung, he's doing that thing. He's been doing it all this tournament, all this series. He's getting his 3rd base on location. So yeah, his orbital's gonna be a little bit slower than what Gumiho has, but it's kind of, and that's not the end of the world, because he's gonna be able to make up for a lot of that time by having it on location. And he's only down 3 workers. You know, resources lost is gonna favor him by just a little bit, but most importantly, it's that gas count. The thing is, though, is that as he wants to get aggressive here on the map, and you know, more power to him. He should be up. Well, actually, he's equal on tanks, but he has more Ravens. You would think he'd be able to find something, but he's not really. And now, Raven drops Autoturst, gets another SCV, maybe gets a second. Oh, Raven. Vikings are going to chase it down. So that should be the end of the Raven. Oh, no, Ryung. He's going to pull SCVs into this. 6 workers go down. I don't think that was the play at all. That's not what you're looking for. So Ryung, he was in this fantastic position, right? This pretty awesome position where he trades well. He really doesn't lose all that much to the defense. And now Marines get on top of the Cyclone. Tanks don't siege, and the Cyclone will fall, which means the medevac is very safe. But anyway, pulling the SCVs took Ryung from a good situation into one that is not so good, where he's taken that next round of damage kind of right as he brought his economy back. It does make life a little, just so much rougher. And now Gumiho's got a little bit more army supply. The tank count's all that matters right now, and the Raven count. So it's 5 tanks to 5, 2 Ravens in Gumiho's favor. And realistically, if you have that, the Marine count doesn't really matter all that much, as long as there's something and you can just kind of buffer enough. So tanks are going to find their way on the left side. That's again, just get one tank dead immediately. Second one gets shut down here, and especially without stim, I mean, this army is just not really getting on top of anything. The medevac goes down here as well. That's going to be a second dead tank, and I need a button because that was easy. But now where does the Gumiho go? The answer appears to be a drop. He's going to deputize himself onto the left side, but there are 2 Vikings here, and that should be enough to ward him off. So I don't think that's going to get much done. Yeah, the Vikings are going to find it. Oh, yeah, turn around. Take some damage. Hot shots. So Ryung at this point, army supply is equal. Income, roughly equal. Close enough. The big thing that he's suffering from right now is his upgrades. Oh, his upgrades. They are not where you want to be. 1-1 halfway done. Combat shields kind of roughly the same. Gumiho has combat shields and 1-1. He's got so much more. His Marines are just so much more powerful than Ryung's at this point that I don't know that he can win a fight like 2-1, but 1.5 to 1, not outside of the realm of possibility. These Marines, they just trade so much better. So Ryung's gonna have to just batten down the hatches, turtle up, sit under the aegis of these tanks, of the sensor towers, of Ravens maybe, just to make sure that your Marines are never fighting Marines. They're fighting your Marines and tanks are fighting Marines and tanks, and that is realistically a much easier fight, a much better fight that Ryung can take. So he shuts down the aggression once again. His 1-1 is just about done. But now we're running into this issue where Ryung does not have a 4th base. That's kind of round 2 of what we're looking at. Gumiho's got his 4th base on the way, and in general, it's interesting in this series because we've seen Gumiho really do a good do a very good job of every time he's got an advantage, he expands behind it. He gets a 4th, he gets a 5th. He does a very good job of turning tempo and map control advantages into game advantages, into these economic advantages. But, and I say with a heavy but, I'm used to seeing Ryung do that. Ryung, in my mind, and again, this is maybe outdated TVT information. I haven't seen him a ton this year, but in my mind, he's very good at expanding, even when he doesn't feel like he could. Just really good job of making sure his economy is developed as it needs to. So good on Gumiho for making that one happen. 2-2 about halfway done. Mech attack on the way here as well. There we go, 5th command center. So yeah, supplies are pretty equal. 74 workers to 74. Upgrades are not that heinous as they once were. Gumiho a little slow into his 2-2. But the thing is, Gumiho's going to be able to remax. I mean, even if they max out around the same time, Gumiho is going to be able, he's going to have so much more money. He's going to be able to sustain more armies. So Ryung is going to have to trade really cost effectively here to make this thing work out. Is now scan on the left side. It's going to tell Ryung, okay, reposition a little bit. Also, sensor towers do help. So Ryung, he's going to be able to lock his left flank down. His 4th base now on location. We're going to see a planetary go down. And Gumiho just owns this map. I mean, actually, okay, he's going to try to move in. I don't like this fight, though. Anti-armor missile is going to go down. 1 tank, 2 tank will fall. And it's such an anti-timing, Gumiho. Your 1-1's done as you lose the fight. What the hell was that? That's the second fight this game that is oh so questionable. I mean, maybe Gumiho thought his upgrade timing was a little bit different. I don't know, but He runs in, he gets anti-armor missile, he loses all of his Marines, and then the upgrade's complete. It's like, Gumiho, what are you doing? And now this gives Ryung position on the map. He can start to move forward here a little bit, even as the tank out. I mean, it's 12-9, but I don't know. I liked him holding the high ground. I didn't like him moving on the low ground. Even still, I mean, Gumiho, that was just... So 1,000, 1,500 resources in the good for Ryung at this point. The fight just didn't make sense. I'm honestly a little shocked about how that one went down. So now let's see. Oh, Ryung's gonna find a couple tanks. That's gonna be very nice. Stims in once again, snaps it down. One tank will fall, and this is 2-2 bio. This planetary, it seems dead. So economically, it has been equalized. In fact, Ryung up a couple workers here. He's been able to establish his 4th base, his 5th base about halfway done. His upgrades may be a little bit behind, but that's okay for the most part. 2-2, or +2 mech attack is going to be the big problem here. Now the tanks on the low ground, they siege up, and this seems a little bit awkward. Anti-armor missile on top of everything, but it's a horrible fight for Ryung. He moves down the ramp, he doesn't siege up properly, and he just loses all of his Marines. He loses everything he had in the sky here as well, and it's just, I guess this is a distraction for the drop, but I mean, honestly, both players have been taking some really questionable fights here in this TVT in the mid to late game. And I understand, I mean, it's kind of hard to figure out just how good a position you are, how bad a position you are in a TVT like this. But this drop, it gets 5 SCVs. It does not kill killing the armory would be massive, delaying that +2 mech timing. Because the way it works is if you are a stim marine and you get hit by a +2 tank shell, you die. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. That's just how it works. Otherwise, you know, the math gets a little more complicated, but normally you're 2 shots. So getting that +2 mech attack, it really does allow for a Terran to control space with less tanks, to really, I mean, to evaporate armies if the tanks are sieged up properly. So that does become a bit of a problem. So, high ground tank here, but unfortunately 3 tanks. Ground gets damaged, but unfortunately, again, he will lose that tank. So now at this point, Ryung is, oh, interesting. Ryung is doing the Sky Terran transition. He's got Ravens on the way, and given the fact, it feels like the meta is just saying, don't do that. At this point, we saw Maru do it a little bit, but Oliveira beat him at every turn. Even if Maru was winning in the group stage, getting the Ravens like this just does not feel like a winning value proposition. So Gumiho now is going to move forward here. Not a lot of Marines, a ton of tanks, though, with Bio. Stims on top, but it's +2 what we were just talking about. +2 tanks versus Bio. Evaporation. Total destruction. So Ryung seems primed to lose 2 bases here. The base on the right, tanks sieging away at that. That's eventually going to get dealt with. And then tanks knocking down this planetary. They're +2 tanks. They got a lot of damage, and there are so many of them. So the SCVs are going to get pulled. The repair is abandoned. And now Gumiho gets 2 bases for the price of 1. We were talking about how Ryung got his economy back, but he kind of lost it in equal measure. So he's going to have to do... Oh, Marines move on top. What do they get? Actually, really not a ton, but okay, Ryung. He's going to knock down some potential production here. These starports will go down. It's a dead orbital, so they're going to do a real slobber knocker here. This is fun. But this does feel like a game, even as we talk about how, okay, well, starports died and orbital died. This really does feel like a game where Gumiho is ever so slowly leveraging himself forward, finding better economic leads, and this is really emphasized more than anything else by the bank. You know, Ryung sitting here at 500 minerals, 700 gas. I mean, respectable, but he's not maxed out just yet. Gumiho, he's mining 1,000 minerals more a minute. He's got 2,000 gas in the bank. He's got +3 mech attack on the way. He has armies in the bank, or at least the armies in his economy, and that's just not something that Ryung really has. So Ryung is a 3-base Terran. And the question now is how is he going to be able to make up for that? Gumiho, he's got 5, 6 bases as he retakes that 3rd. And he owns the high ground and more. Oh, okay, so Ryung, you don't want to move up at this ramp, Ryung. Okay, Gumiho's going to move right on top, siege the tanks up, watch things explode. A couple tanks are going to get shut down, and actually, Ryung has the positive siege up there, so I thought this was going to be horrible, and actually maybe it's not. He's going to land the Vikings, drop on top of everything, and Ryung takes an absolute miracle of a fight, but he's losing bases. So yeah, you know, Ryung, you tuck a fight, it's incredible. It's so well done. You get the positive siege. But was it worth the base? Gumiho is immediately back up on the army supply once again. Workers continue to fall down. Ryung's mining 500 minerals a minute. He's rapidly making it so these cost-effective trades, because I thought they had actually, but no, it's been equalized. I guess the loss of the many planetaries is kind of the big loss there. But even with these trades that look fairly cost-effective, with 10 counts getting reset, I mean, it's just not really working out. As Vikings, they just run forward, move commanded forward, and now these Marines, even if they are anti-armor missile, they're doing so much, and the Vikings go down as well. So Ryung needs to find something. He's got 3 orbitals, and that is just it. Now feels like, well, really this does feel like the last push of Ryung at this point. He's got 67 workers to 67, fine, and he has been dropping mules, so his economy is a little bit more developed. But I mean, just look at this, +3 mech attack, just about done. Armor for these tanks and for these Vikings and for these medevacs done as well. And the army supply is really good, but more importantly, tank count continues to increase at a far superior rate for Gumiho, really, than it does for Ryung, and he's already up 2. So Ryung is going to struggle to push in. But this might be a salient point here coming in from Ryung. There's not a lot here. It's a decent concave setup that Gumiho can look to collapse, but Gumiho is just doing the same thing he's been doing all game. He's got Marines on the other side, and tank for good measure, why not? But he's just been quicker on the counterattack, and this has not been true of this game. It's been true of this series, and Gumiho punches his ticket to run off, to run into dark in the winners match. Ryung, though. Ryung versus Stats, battle the old boys in the elimination match. That's going to be fun, too. But, yeah. Gumiho Dark, winners match.